Welcome to the Renegade Politics Podcast, where you'll understand politics from an expert perspective. On the web at renegadepoliticspodcast.com.
Fundraising, in a way, is really at the center of everything that you do as a candidate. And let me explain first. I'm gonna get off the basic here, the mechanics of it, and just tell you first, if you can't fundraise, you can't win. And I'll tell you why. Because if you can't ask someone for money, you cannot effectively ask someone to vote for you. And if you can't effectively ask someone to vote for you, you can't win. And when I say ask, I don't mean one-on-one. I mean on TV or in media, in your message or whatever. So it is not just important because you've got to get your message out. But if you can't ask, if you can't get people or convince people somehow to give you money, I don't know how you're going to convince people who don't know you, don't care about you, don't care who you are, don't want to talk to you, don't want to listen, don't want to pay attention to anything, how you're going to get those people to vote for you. That's pretty tough. It's tougher than you think. A lot of people, it's not a throwaway thing. Some people it is. So I'm not going to get into that. Or there's my philosophical 12 seconds. So the first thing that you need to know when you are in your campaign and you're figuring out fundraising, obviously your needs, your scope. What are you? And let me help you define that. You're either small, you are large, or you're somewhere in between. You either need $1,000 to run for county water commissioner, or you need $150,000 to run for city council. I see large as anything $30,000 plus, because the way that you fundraise to bring in $30,000 or more is basically the same. There are some small changes that the pros do, and I'll get into that. But let's get into this first. First thing you need to do is figure out what the rules are. There are limits. Different states have different limits. You shouldn't have any county limits or any municipal limits. It should be the state level, the federal level. The federal limits, the FEC.gov site, shouldn't matter to you unless you're running for federal campaign. So you're probably governed, if you're not in a federal campaign, Congress, U.S. Well, if you don't know what that is, you shouldn't be running probably, right? But the state probably governs that. Just make a call before you do something you shouldn't. And this is, people get caught in this. People who know what they're doing, and they're just starting out, and they're caught right before they pull the trigger on a campaign. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. Sure, why not? Now, don't panic if you take more. You just refund it. It's not, as long as the intent isn't there, you're probably okay, although I'm not giving legal advice on this to you right now. So a couple of people that you'll need in the process. Campaign treasurer. Never, ever, ever let a company be your campaign treasurer. That is a scam. Companies go out and they have money-making ways of doing things, and they make themselves the treasurer. They raise $100,000. They keep $95,000 and give you $5,000, and I don't think there's anything you can do, which kind of surprises me, but I've seen that done. I've seen it done to people I know. So campaign treasurer, very important job, but can they get in trouble? I think they can get in trouble. Basically an accountant for the books. So make it so usually someone's wife or husband or something like that. Campaign chairman, that's a position you may or may not have heard of. A campaign chairman can be one of two things, and these are on larger campaigns. Can be a person who has the ability to raise money, knows people in the community, is always the most likely to run for that office themselves, if not a better choice than you. But one of two things. One, either they have the ability to raise money, or they know people with money, or two, they have some kind of stature in the community. They're an owner of the baseball team. They are local talk show host. They are whatever it is, former mayor. The other positions are nothing that really is a fundraising director. That's the person. I'll get into that in a few minutes. So first, with a small campaign, if you're trying to raise $1,000 to $5,000, that's a small campaign. You've determined that you need $1,000 to $5,000 to win, for whatever reason. Maybe it's a county commissioner and you need 300 votes. I don't know. Mailings, you don't do so much in this range because the price of a stamp and the price of the letter and the return on the mailings, you do the math, you probably just write yourself a check. And that's what a lot of people do to cover those campaigns. But there's two questions I think you have to ask on a small, if you're going to raise $5,000 or even $10,000 or even $15,000, I think. One question you have to ask yourself, which is very important, and it could be in a larger campaign too, but I'm going to throw it in here because usually the smaller ones are not partisan. That is, even if they are partisan, they aren't partisan in the issues you're discussing. The issues you're running on as a water commissioner, even if you're elected as a Democrat or a Republican, are probably not things that are going to get somebody hot under the collar if they hear about. So you got to ask yourself the question, are you going to make this a partisan race? If you're running for dog catcher, if you want to make it partisan, then you can target the most passionate people within your party and make it a partisan race. People give to people who, potential. Donors like to see someone grow and help them. This method obviously works because you've got city councilors running around talking about immigration laws. They have nothing to do with immigration laws, but they're talking about immigration laws because they know they can raise money by talking about immigration, by talking about the President of the United States, even though they're running for town council or something in Fiddlesticks, California, somewhere. Population 480. I'll tell you, that's not appropriate. I'm not going to do that. This method does obviously work for larger campaigns because it's more expected. You're going to have a little bit of pushback possibly. But again, when I talk about potential, when you go to someone and say, I'm a Republican, I'm running for dog catcher, I know you probably don't care who's catching the dogs out there, but remember, today's dog catcher is tomorrow's congressman or tomorrow's city councilor. It works. It's about a shared connection with people. That's what this whole business is. If you don't want to go partisan, you find issues. Try to find issues that others agree with you on and that can support you on. Relevance to the office. What issues, in other words. I used to say all politics is local, right? Tip O'Neill. I grew up in Tip O'Neill's district. Newt Gingrich came along and said, all politics is personal, which I agree with. Now, if you're running for water commissioner on a platform of lowering Jeff Jones' property tax, may not be relevant, but do you think he's going to vote for you? Probably a bad example, but you get the point. If you make things personal to people, it works. I guess I'm slipping back into partisan. I don't want to do that. But you've got to compel people. It's the same way to get people to vote for you in these small races. It's tough. It's also tough for Secretary of State. I mean, who cares who's printing the driver's licenses? And usually those positions are won by people who just have the network of support. So I'm going to get back in here. I want to get back to the point. Make the issue personal to the donors. Things that are important, even if your job isn't important. Make the issue and don't pander. Don't be fake. Genuinely try to make a connection. And you know what you can do? You just tell them why you want to be the dog catcher. But you better want to be the dog catcher. If you don't want to be the dog catcher and you're running for dog catcher, you tell them why you're doing it. They've got to be part of the team. It doesn't mean the people you call every day, but just part of the team, part of what you're doing, part of what you're all about. And I have a lot of experience in that. I was going to share a story, but I'll share it some other time. You could say, you may be giving to thousands of candidates running for high-profile offices, but I will appreciate your money much more. I'll use it better than them. And as I move up the ladder, I'll take care of you. Please don't say that verbatim, by the way. But you see the point. Write a check for $1,000 to a member of Congress who's raising $3 million. They don't even know who that guy is. And as a lower elected official for dog catcher, he's still an elected official. He still sees the congressman and talks to the congressman when they're there, or the U.S. senator. Usually, depending on the town. But those are pretty compelling reasons to give somebody $250 to run for water commissioner. And remember, again, nothing wrong with saying, I want to do a good job. I need your support. Here's why the Water Commission needs me. Here are some bad things happening. You do it in a letter. You do it in person. You do it in an email blast. It doesn't matter. So onto the medium to large campaigns. This is the campaign chairman in a medium to large campaign is a person who would, again, as I said before, there to attract money. They could pledge it, they could raise money, or they could just give you their name. The name presence works. I had a PAC at one point in my life, about 20 years ago. And it did pretty well raising money. I was a nobody. I was an absolute nobody. I could fall off the face of the earth and no one would care. But on my letterhead, I had some people, a state senator. I had and it was a partisan PAC, and the job was to elect people to office, and I was raising money to help campaigns. On my letterhead was a state senator. There was a donor whose last name is on the New York Stock Exchange as a company, a major, major person. I mean, the person himself is not, the name was. And about 3 to 4, I believe, other very wealthy donors. People knew who these people were. If you didn't know who they were, you would know that they know what they're doing. They got money. And people with money know who they were, especially in the community. So this works. Ask for their name. You just send out a mailing with that. It's obviously done, meeting somebody. The components of a mailing, I don't think that's changed over the last couple of years. Get your letter, a number 9 envelope for return, a return card that says, yes, I'll support you. Check the box here for $100. Check the box here for $50. Well, you've seen those, right? I would say an insert is a good thing to put in there. And then you need a good list. The list, I want to get into the list pretty quickly here because it's something that's confused people. I'm not going to give legal advice to anyone. Please check this out on your own. This is what I'm told. The FEC.gov has a list of all political donors. I talk to people and say, can you use this? And I point out that on the website it says this site is not to be used for political campaign purposes, not to be used for fundraising. People I talk to use them anyway. They say nobody cares. I don't know if anybody cares. I'm pretty by the book, but I just want to warn you about that. That's the official FEC.gov, and it's been like that forever, unless they recently changed it. Unofficially, I'll tell you this, I think it's public information, and if it was ever challenged in court, I don't know how they enforce that. I mean, you can do whatever you want with public information. But you don't want to be in federal court, probably, right? Probably not a good way to start your campaign. So you need to get a list somehow. However you get the list, that's up to you. I would say, in my experience, unless you're a really special guy or you've been elected 10 times, do a one-page letter. People don't want to read about your background, where you went to high school, your wife, don't care how old your kids are. They don't care about these things. A picture can kind of say all that, right? One-page letter, a call to action. One issue per letter is a rule. Here's why I need your money. Here's how much money I need from you. And you figure out how much money they give. And then you ask for that amount of money. Guy gives a bunch of $100 donations to people. Guess what you ask for? Mr. Jones, I'm running for water commissioner. Our water's a mess. Actually, I'll give you an example of one that worked very well. I don't think this was a fundraising piece that I did for someone a long time ago, but it was a campaign, and he came very close to winning in a very not his party district. There was a guy who was a city councilor, and the district was a mess. Streets were just broken, playgrounds were broke, everything was just a mess in an urban area. We wrote a letter, had a picture of him, we made it, of course you had to darken it up, right? All dark. I found a quote of his in the newspaper. He said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, when he was talking about something. We put his name, we put, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We said that he's running, and my guy's opposing him. And we took about 4 or 5 pictures of the district of caved in trees on top of playgrounds, broken in half streets. Pretty effective piece. Guy almost won. I think it was 38 votes. And this guy was some kind of a temporary mayor for a little while. So that was a big deal. It's got to be compelling, is my point. Mr. Jones, I'm running for water commissioner. I need to win because of this issue. Your $100 will help me win. Thank you very much. Please, I really need the help. Here's my background. Then an insert piece of paper. You can put earned media on it is ideal. Put a newspaper article talking about who you are, not you. And then put the newspaper, whatever it is, the New York Times, and then clip it with your face, and then the New York Times story. If you can do that kind of thing, that's what you do with media, by the way. If you don't have that, which is possible, put your issue there. Get your issue out of the letter. The letter is the ask. The letter is saying, I want money. Here's how much. Here's why. Who you are, put that in the insert. Because people aren't going to read 4 pages about you. You already lost them. There are some things, and don't say you're a fighter, please. Everybody's a fighter. Everybody's a worker. Everybody's all that cliche stuff. It doesn't work. And you got to trust me on that. I knew a guy who was a state senator once, and successful state senator. He used to have these letters. He'd write these letters, and it would say, Mr. Jeff Jones. And he'd cross it off and write Jeff, because he thought this was, the personal touch. But it looked ridiculous. Personal touch is great, but don't make your letter look... If it looks stupid to you, it looks stupid to your donor. And don't forget, please, to do thank you letters, because what happens is this. When you get... You mail 1,000 people, and you get, 10 letters back with donations. You mail those 10 people again, you'll get 1 donation back. Again, people will give more than one time. People will give 3 or 4 times over the course of a campaign. If they're that upset and hot to bothered to send you money once, they're going to do it again. Treat them very well. It's not rocket science. Repetition helps. Any advantage you can get helps. When I started that PAC a long time ago, that we did pretty well, one of the things we did, I found out that the state house where I was living at had a mail post office inside of it. So guess what I did? I got a post office box at the state house. So our address was, the name of the PAC, P.O. Box 123, State House, the city. Do whatever you can do to get an edge. Repeat donors, very important. Next is emails and a website asking money on the internet. You see those chip in $5 things on the website at the top? They do that because people don't give money on the internet typically. That's why you're not going to get a $100 donation on the internet. Here's the exception to that rule. You have to have a website with the ability to give money, because you will, if you make phone calls, someone will say, I'll jump on your website and give you money. And they will. So you got to have the functionality of taking money on the website, even if you don't raise it. People want to see that. The chip in $5 is a way to capitalize on the person who logs on your website. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you win. They're just like, I don't want to give $25 or $50. But then they see $5 and they go, I get $5 in my PayPal. Here you go. Here's $5. Email is okay, but the email can't just be give me money, give me money, give me money. It can't look like the letter. If you have email addresses of donors or potential donors, send out regular emails, make a case, make a point, and then put, here's money at the end. If you catch people at the right time, they will give. Now, phone calls is the next thing. This is the big one. Phone calls, no one likes to do this, by the way. My advice is to do it. It will change you, who you are, for the better. It'll get you out of your shell. It'll raise you money. It should. If you're disciplined. Make 25 calls a day. 4 days a week. 25 contacts, not just calls and hang up. Contacts. Call during business hours. get day phone numbers. I don't care if you find out Jim Jones works at ABC Realty Corp, you get on the internet, you look up ABC Realty Corp, you get the front desk, you call the front desk looking for Jim Jones. Hold on, I'll transfer you to his assistant. Hi, this is Lisa. Hi, Lisa. I'm calling and looking for Jeff Jones. Hold on. Sometimes these people have 2-3 barriers of assistance. I've done that before, CEOs of big companies. Sometimes you get through these guys easier sometimes than other people. So call during business hours. When you get on the phone, get to the point. Mr. Jones? Yes. Hi, I'm the Renegade political guy. I'm running for Congress. Can I talk to you do you have about 30 seconds for me? Yeah, what's going on? Well, as you may or may not know, Congressman whatever was sentenced to federal prison yesterday, so he can't serve. So I was hoping to get your money out. You get the point. You've got to find something. This isn't the Message podcast. So whatever it is, I'll tell you something funny. I'm going to offend some people if you're not a Republican. I'm sorry. I had this pitch I'm going to tell you when I was running for office. I called. I said, hi, my name. I'm running in the Republican primary. I want your support. I'm running against a member of the establishment who's a state representative and a guy who gave $1,000 to Barack Obama. Can I get your support? Most of the time I got kind of a laugh. And that laugh was mostly how completely pointless it was to run as a Republican in the district. And they felt bad. But it was an acknowledgement. I made a connection with people. Because how ridiculous is it if you're a Republican and you've got an establishment hack and you've got a guy that gave $1,000 to Obama running in a primary? And the donors laughing because they're thinking, oh man, are you kidding me? Boy, things are worse than I thought. You want to make that connection however you can. You've got to give a reason to give. You can't just, I'm running for Congress, I need $100. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. How's it feel to need $100? I'm running for Congress. My opponent just voted to do blank. I oppose this. I will never do blank. I don't know how you feel about blank, but I'm hoping you agree with me. And if you agree with me, there's no one else in the race who supports blank. There you go. Now it becomes a matter of, do you have a realistic chance? But that's another thing completely. If they ask you questions, answer briefly. Stay polite. Stay on purpose. They don't want a story. How long have you been doing this for? I just started about 4 months ago. I've been hitting the phones every day. We're going to win this. There you go. They don't want to hear about your kids, hear about your story and your life. Unless they want it, and say, hey, maybe we can meet. And then you can tell them your story. But you shouldn't do that. This is a business transaction. One time I argued with a guy. I disagreed with him because I answer honest. Be honest, too. This is a true story. Argued with a guy. Talked to him for about 20 minutes or something. Gave me $100. I think he even emailed me, said something like, at least you talked to me, or something like that. Here's another story. I once argued with a guy, a very high-profile guy, for I don't know what was going on. I remember the moment I was doing it because I was very passionate, so I'd be arguing about this stuff. I was asking for a $1,000 donation. I kept pushing. He said, yeah. He hung up the phone. I didn't think I'd get anything. Check came in the mail. $900. So he won, right? But I got $900, so I didn't get my $1,000. It doesn't matter who these people are. You're on a mission. If you're locked out of your car and someone's chasing you with a knife, are you afraid to knock on the door? Because, hey, these people, it's a pretty good neighborhood. I don't really want to knock on this door. No, you're on a mission. And if you don't think it's important enough to bother that donor, then what are you running for? It's not important enough to run. The guy who's in there, just leave him in there or her in there. When you make the phone call and you make the ask, you ask for the support, you give your website. If they say, well, I'll think about it, that's fine. Could I call you back after you review my website? It's the way you're supposed to do it. I know it sounds sucky to people. They don't want to do that, but that's the way it works. Follow up with a letter. Follow up with another call. Who do you call? State donors, local donors, depends on the race. Congress, you can call pretty much anybody in the state. Stay in the district. Try to stay in the district. But if you got if it's better to be, just call the whole, it's fine. State, federal stuff is fine. City council, don't call out of the city. It's a little weird. Usually, depending on the area. Phone calls, you have to do it. Here's how the pros do it. I'll tell you very quickly. Governor's running for re-election. Makes a call. Jim Jones. Jim, it's the governor. How are you? I'm good. Jim, I need $1,000 for my re-election campaign. Jim says, okay. Governor says, thank you very much. How are the kids? Guy says, fine. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Then the fundraising director calls the donor. Mr. Jones, I'm following up on the $1,000 donation that you pledge that you made to the governor. That's how the pros do it. Try to do that if you can, if you got a fundraising director. If you got a volunteer, you can do that. Have a volunteer follow up on your phone calls. Guy says, hey, I'll think about it. I'm asking for $100. Sir, I'm running for Congress. I'm calling 25,000 people. I want $100 from each person, whatever. Fill in the numbers later. I'm just asking for a $100 donation for you. Will you consider it? Guy says, yeah, I'll consider it. Yeah. You have your volunteer follow up with the guy. You can do that. Fine. Volunteer calls. Mr. Jones, I'm following up for political Renegade Politics podcast guy. You said you'd consider a $100 donation. How do you feel about that? Is it something you'd be willing to do? Try to get an answer from these people. Answers are important. Information's important. Feedback is important. There's a guy named Paul Cellucci who was governor of Massachusetts, who I know a little bit about. He parlayed a bad situation into a good one. He was running in a Democrat state, had this tax cut question on the ballot. So he was known as the guy who won it. So be creative when you're doing this. So what did he do? He didn't call and say, hey, I'm a Republican running in a Democrat district, and they laugh at him. He said, hey, that tax cut question is polling at 60%, and I'm running on that issue for governor. Really could use your support. He won. Did he win? I think he won. I don't know. Actually, maybe he didn't win. No, he did win. I know the tax cut question won. Yeah, he won. I once was in an office, high-rise office in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm showing where I'm from, which is okay. Sat across from the table from a very well-placed person who started literally swearing about Paul Cellucci. He won't return my calls. A lot of these donors, they just want you to return their calls. It's not hard. Events is the next thing. Here's the thing about events. If you have a lot of friends and family, it's a great way to go. If you don't have a lot of friends and family, it's a high cost, bad return thing. One way to cut costs, you can raise money at a restaurant, reserve a room, reserve an area of the restaurant. I used to just go into the restaurant. Can I reserve this back area? Fantastic. Put up a little sign. Pay for appetizers only. Ask for $10 or $25 a person to cover that, and then the donation. When people show up at the event, please write their name and email down, an address if you can. This becomes your donor list you mail. Campaign fundraising events are like hotel restaurants. You don't go to the hotel restaurant when you stay there, right? Who does that? But if you don't have a hotel restaurant, you wonder about the hotel. Then there's the personal meeting. It's the next way to raise money. It's like the phone calls. It all comes from the phone calls. Call, ask for a meeting. Guy gives $10,000 to people, $5,000. Ask for a meeting. Hey, I just want your advice. I'm running for Congress. Do you have 5 minutes? Can I meet you at your office? You'd be surprised how many people say yes. It's as simple as that. I just want to know if I could meet you, sir. I know you've been giving money for 10 years. I really could use the feedback. I'm running because the opponent, whatever. Show up appropriately dressed, in a suit, get your 2-minute intro. Hi, how you doing? The pleasantries. Where'd you go to high school? Whatever it is. Your 1-minute pitch and then the ask. And remember, a no doesn't always mean no. They may legitimately want to think about it. Passion is okay. Don't yell at them, but don't be afraid to be honest. And go alone. Don't drop names. Be yourself. Basically, in general, this whole thing can be wrapped up in this. Never get tired of asking for money because you cannot afford to. Professional donors understand that you need to ask for money. They're not going to be offended. And people want to give money to a person that's willing to put in the work of begging for money. They respect it. You got to do it. If you want to win, you have to do it. Don't make excuses. Don't talk yourself into not doing it. You have to make the calls, even if it's 5 calls a day, 10 calls a day. Do something, because even the people that win without making the calls. I'm thinking of Danny Tarkanian in Nevada running for Congress. Hated making phone calls. He won the primary. He got blown out in the general. It changes who you are to make these phone calls. It makes you better as a candidate to make these phone calls. So get out there and do the phone calls. They're important. You can email me at renegadepolitics